Welcome to the Christian Nerd HQ download. The download.
Hey everyone, it's Monday, May 8th, 2023. This is Ryan, and we're here with your weekly recap of WWE action. If you need a quick recap, too busy, weren't able to watch in the past week, look no further, come to us, we'll tell you what happened. The biggest news this past week is the WWE draft. You can see on screen right now all of the superstars and their landing spots and how the rosters have shaken out. Before we get into what those rosters will look like, we need to tie a bow on the old ones. So here is a breakdown of WWE Backlash. The first match of the night was Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. From the very beginning, it was an incredibly entertaining match, with both women pulling off movesets, doing spots, flawlessly executing offense, and engaging the crowd. Speaking of the crowd, they were wild from the beginning and were clearly behind Io Sky. She was the breakout superstar of the night, in my opinion, and had an incredible match, showing exactly what she can be capable of on either roster. She is future WWE Championship material. Everything about the match was the highest of quality, 5 stars if you want to say, until the finish, which I felt was incredibly unnecessary. This same finish could have been accomplished without the involvement of Damage Control. And this is just a huge complaint with WWE lately, how they always choose to use other superstars to run in and do a schmoz finish instead of just getting a clear win that could have accomplished the same thing. I do understand why they did the run-in finish, because it's telling a bigger story of Damage Control. In recent weeks, we've seen a rift kind of form between Bayley and the rest of Damage Control, and I believe that eventually, at some point in time, either Io is going to break away individually, or both Dakota and Io are going to break away individually. Bayley has clearly accomplished that she is a great heel. She does not need the other two to make her any worse of a heel. And as we have seen tonight in the match, Io Sky is over as a babyface and can be over as a face. She is someone that the crowd can get behind, and we know that there is a star on their hands. Dakota could go either way, but involving them in the match would not have changed the fact that the crowd would have perceived Io Sky as a breakaway person from Damage Control. The second match of the night paired Seth Rollins against Omos. This was a perfect match for Omos. In my opinion, Seth Rollins is the second best hand in the company behind Dolph Ziggler, and it showed off a lot of things. For Omos' side, it showed off that he has character. If you go back and watch, there are several times where he involves the crowd, he plays to the crowd, his facial features are bringing the crowd into the match. He has some of that it factor. But it also shows that he's missing one or two things that would put him over the top as the monster unbeatable giant that WWE is looking for. From Seth's perspective, it showed how he could play the small guy in a match. He was trying to pull off moves. His typical moveset wouldn't work, even showing that he had to do a stomp off of the top rope because his normal stop was just blocked and ineffective. It was a really fun match. It was a really entertaining match. And the match, at the end of the day, with Seth winning, accomplished two main things. Number one, it accomplished Omos as a monster, right? Even though he is still missing those two things, it took everything from your top star or co-top star with Cody and Seth Rollins to do something new, unorthodox, out of the bag of tricks, if you will, to beat this monster. It sets the tone, even in a loss for him, to become something greater moving forward throughout the summer. The second thing that it accomplished was it established Seth Rollins as the leader for the new world title, which I still don't completely understand the new world title, but he is going to be the leader there. Him and Cody are going to battle for that title on Raw. When we look at the whole title tournament, there are several superstars that you think can make it, but you have to treat Seth Rollins as the leader for that. One thing that I would like to see with his character moving forward is to kind of see this transition in a new roster to transfer away from the kind of wild, crazy Joker version of Seth Rollins, keeping some of the drip that has really made him popular and that is added to his character, but getting back to a more serious, determined, I'm the top guy kind of attitude. The third match of the night was probably one of the most intriguing for me, but yet most disappointing matches on the card, and that was the U.S. title match 3-way. All eyes here were on Bronson Reed. It was his first big shine in a WWE spotlight. It was his first time on a premium live event under either the red or the blue brand, as he previously wrestled under NXT. People hate Austin Theory, and I don't know if it's necessarily in a good way. I think it's more of in a Dominic Mysterio way, which isn't necessarily good, but I can also see from WWE's perspective how any reaction that strong is a good reaction for them. But basically, if Austin Theory is getting beat up, the crowd is happy. And in this match, that's exactly what happened. Bobby Lashley did his role. He pulled off sets. He was able to slap a lot of man meat with Bronson Reed, and he was able to beat up on Austin Theory a lot. Austin was able to get some moves off, but really, I think the star of this show was to showcase Bronson Reed. His moonsault off of the top rope was crazy. You could see how athletic he is, how strong he is, and how, with a little bit of character development, he will be a leading person in WWE in the future. One of the biggest downfalls of this match is the finish. I know it's 3 matches in, and I've already talked about finishes twice, but having the finish in a 3-way of one person getting the win, another person throwing them out of the ring, and getting the 3 count. When was the last time this has not happened? This seems to be the only finish WWE can think of. Why? What is the purpose? It did nothing for anybody in this match, right? It made Bobby Lashley look weak. Bronson Reed took the pin, which was expected, and it didn't do anything for Austin Theory, who the fans already feel is a weak champion. There are a lot of other ways that WWE could have gone with this finish, but I feel like they are stuck in, we're going to have someone sit outside the ring, 2 guys are going to fight, the champion or whoever we want to win is going to come in at the last second, throw them out, and get the pin. If there could have been any other finish, this would have been a better match, but where it was, it left everybody hurt. Even with the good spots, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth on the finish. The fourth match of the night was the SmackDown Women's title match, which was between Zelina Vega and Rhea Ripley. Even though this match was the basic equivalent of a 15 seed making it to the Elite 8 in the NCAA tournament, we all kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. The more important thing to focus on was the shine that was put on Zelina Vega. Zelina got to wrestle for the second night in a row, first time in a championship match, first time in a singles match in her home of Puerto Rico. She fed to the crowd, played the crowd, had excellent ring gear that showed off her heritage, and you could tell from a person that is typically very closed off was overcome by emotions with the crowd and their reactions. It meant a lot for her to do that, and props to WWE for giving her that spotlight and that opportunity. With that being said, this match was a very fun and entertaining match. It allowed Zelina Vega to get her opportunity in the spotlight. She is an incredible wrestler who has a great skill set, who trains hard, works hard, and is committed to the business, but oftentimes doesn't always get viewed as part of even the women's wrestling community in WWE. She's never really included in a lot of matches. She's always kind of on the outside looking in. And this match really showed that she belongs, and she belongs in some kind of title picture, some kind of storyline, some kind of place other than just like, oh, she's the one woman in the LWO, or, oh, hey, we can throw Zelina in here. Even when she won Queen of the Ring last year, that whole Queen and King of the Ring was dropped almost immediately, and she was starting to run with that character. Giving her these opportunities shows that she belongs, and I think that you can kind of see that as a theme of the night, is that people that haven't always been given a chance are now getting that, and if this continues into the summer, WWE is on a high trajectory. On the other side of this match, you got to see Rhea Ripley do what she does best and show why she is the top women's wrestler in WWE right now. Her match started by her getting beat up. And anytime she gets beat up, anytime offense gets put on her, you can tell that she does her best to sell it. She looks like she's about to lose. She looks like she is feeling the offense, even though she was much bigger in stature than Zelina. It didn't feel odd or out of place that Zelina's moveset was working on Rhea. And she's always done a great job with that, and probably almost underrated in that aspect in all of her matches. But still, at that same time, with her weakness, she shows strength. She is as dominant or as powerful as anybody that's ever been a part of women's wrestling in WWE. I would compare her to Chyna in that sense, but she showed why she should be the top wrestler in the women's division. In the fifth match of the night, we had Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. Now, truth be told, this was the match that probably everybody was looking forward to. It was a very smart match. It was a very smart match. You had two former friends that had trained together, wrestled together before, on differing sides of an issue, putting them together, both with a similar background. In Puerto Rico, the crowd was the loudest that it had been all night, which was a lot to say considering that the crowd was wild for every match that got put on in this night. Again, WWE was playing to the hometown and atmosphere. The street fight really protected Bad Bunny by not making him do a typical wrestling match, lockups, those kind of things. It did allow him to pull off a couple of his special moves that he's known for and his high spots, while also just allowing the two wrestlers to beat each other up with kendo sticks and signs and be on the outside of the ring, flipping over barricades, going through tables, all of those things. It was a very, very creative and smart match. From Damian Priest's perspective, it showed what a killer he is. Much like Zelina Vega, Damian Priest was able to show off that he is a main event caliber superstar here in WWE. He should also be considered for the mid-level card titles, such as the IC title or the US title. Whichever one that can be available to him, he should try to go after, and then eventually kind of push towards the main event, new WWE title. Once maybe a title gets off of Roman Reigns, compete for the WWE or Universal titles. A lot of times Damian has not been put in these spotlight matches, this being his first time, and he showed that he can carry everything. He is an absolute beast. He is a great worker. He takes care of people. WWE obviously has trust in him, and it's his time to start taking a step forward towards an eventual push for what I believe could be a future WWE champion. When we look at the finish of this match, I was kind of shocked at the beginning that Judgment Day was going to run in until I saw Carlito. And when Carlito came in and eventually Savio Vega came in, the run in made more sense and it was fantastic. It played all to the fan service of WWE fans, to the fans in Puerto Rico with superstars from their home, to just give them a quick shout out. It did expand the footprint of the LWO, which would kind of make me think that they could do more with that group. Which, on a side note, I do think they need to do more with that group. It's like they want the LWO to be better and want the LWO to be more, but they don't necessarily always get those chances. So to see them featured, to see them expand a little bit with Bad Bunny, with Savio, with Carlito, who I really kind of hope gets a shot with future action in the LWO, that could be great. After the restart of the match, after all of the run-ins had kind of cleared out, the match actually finished really, really well. Damian played off his injury angle great, showed it, made it really look like he was injured, and also allowing Bad Bunny to get that flip in momentum to where he could end up winning the match. Great job all around, super entertaining. The sixth match of the night was the six-man tag, and I hate to say it, but this was the worst match of the night. And I don't know if it's because we've already kind of seen it with Sammy and the Usos and Kevin and the Usos before. I don't know if it was the addition of Matt Riddle in there to just feud with Solo Sikoa. But you could tell, like, this was the break match for the crowd. They weren't as loud. They weren't as into it. And honestly, I think that the storyline is faltering because the story part with Sammy and the Usos are kind of done. And I believe that this match was put here to kind of just tie a bow on that storyline and call it a day. But what we saw in the match at the end is very intriguing. Because Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are splitting away from the Usos, they can't wrestle anymore. They're not on the same shows. But because of that, I do think it's forcing writers in WWE and the story in WWE to go to a more internal storyline with the bloodline. I do feel that the lack of Roman Reigns on television over the past 3 to 4 weeks has really hurt them. There's no one to really drive that story forward with Sammy being gone and kind of out and a champion on his own. But the internal struggle between Solo Sikoa being asked to take his brothers out versus the loyalty to his brothers, especially Jey Uso, is very, very intriguing to me. I really feel like there is a lot of story to be told there, right? Is it going to be Solo that turns on the tribal chief? Is it going to be Solo that turns on the Usos? Is Jey Uso finally going to step up and put people in their places? Is he going to become the new leader if Roman goes and takes a break? What is it all going to do? What kind of position does that put Paul Heyman in? Are other members of their family going to be involved? We don't know, but there is a big internal strife here. So just my big takeaway from this match was, for all the people that think that the Bloodline storyline is dying, there is still a path to have some intrigue. There is still a path for future stories to be told, and the destruction of the Bloodline has not happened yet, but it could be fun to watch. In the last match of the night, we had Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. This match was a must-win for Cody, and you could see immediately when the two wrestlers actually got at the ring, I won't say in the ring, but at the ring, they were wild and into it. It was a good initial attack by Cody, which set the tone for the match, and then Brock Lesnar took over. Mercilessly took over, just beat Cody down with tons of suplexes, which it was fun to note that he wasn't just using his traditional belly to back suplex. He would use a variety of suplexes to put Cody out. And you could tell that even though he was just giving suplex after suplex, the dominance of Brock Lesnar, a la Brock Lesnar versus John Cena for the title at SummerSlam a few years back, that Brock was back. And it's really good to see that, because I think out of all the roles that Brock plays, the dominant, overbearing superstar is his bread and butter. It also showcased Cody being able to be beat down. I think that the big storyline with Cody right now is overcoming all the odds, overcoming everything that's there. And him getting beat down and beat down and beat down just kind of showed that. I do think, unfortunately, with the accident that happened to Brock, it actually cut the match short, and you could see that in the finish. But with all the blood, it did give a believable reason for Cody to be able to come back. It did give a believable reason to Cody to overcome those odds. But at the same time, I think props need to be given to Brock Lesnar. They could have easily stopped that match. With all the blood, with the amount of blood, and with the amount of fluidity to it, like, it was an open wound that kept pouring and kept pouring and kept pouring. Like, you would see like puddles of it on Cody's abdomen as the match went on. So stopping it had to be done, but to see Brock Lesnar kick out of what everyone thought would be a finish, wrestle more, put Cody into the Kimura lock, it was a really impressive, gutsy showcase to see that even though he probably needed medical attention, he was going to finish the match. And a lot of times I do think Brock gets a bad rap for not really caring about the business, because his views are different. I do think that this does show like how important putting on a good show means to him. And after the match was over, after cameras were off, there have been several reports that he got a standing ovation from the crowd, which was absolutely deserved. With this being a quick stop, I would probably say that I would expect a return match in the next 3 weeks, and probably something in there that keeps Cody from winning the new title, which would be another setback for him, which would still stick him in another match with Brock Lesnar in Saudi Arabia. But I would expect that from a perspective to close off this storyline, set Cody up for probably Money in the Bank, and get another shot at Roman Reigns in SummerSlam. So my overall thoughts for the show. This was an A+ show, top to bottom, one of the best premium live events WWE has put on in a while. And we get these from time to time where a smaller event just becomes this incredible pay-per-view, outshining some of the bigger, more prominent ones, maybe one of the big four. One of the things I do think that really helped WWE was their involvement with Puerto Rico and moving the pay-per-view to Puerto Rico. This is like the first of 3 consecutive PLEs that are going to be out of the United States, and I really do feel like WWE should look at doing this more, eventually spreading those in one of the big 4 of Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. From a creative standpoint, I do think all of the storylines advanced, and it left us with questions for almost every superstar that was involved tonight. When we think about these storylines, I do think it was really important that this was a set of storylines that is setting up the future. I don't really think WWE does this enough. I feel like a lot of times with our smaller pay-per-views, we continually get a 1 or 2 week build into a storyline where they have a match at a pay-per-view to fill a spot on a card, instead of using the smaller pay-per-views to set up the larger pay-per-views. When we're looking at these stories, you would want to see a large story go from WrestleMania all the way into SummerSlam, and maybe use your smaller pay-per-views, maybe a Money in the Bank, to continue and set up things moving forward. Having those 2 or 3 month longer builds really help, and having like a small story within a story set up the smaller pay-per-views could build more continuity to the creative and the storylines in the future. My last thought of the night has to do with Judgment Day. I think this group has been plagued ever since the decision to replace Edge with Finn Balor. In most cases with groups, the group is greater than the sum of all the parts, and that is not the case with Judgment Day, and tonight showed that. All of the individual parts, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, Dominic Mysterio. Even with Dominic Mysterio being a fetter to the rest of the group, the other three parts are much greater than what this group is as a whole. There has to be something done. It actually pains me to watch Finn Balor be this cheesy, funny leader of what's supposed to be a serious group. It just doesn't fit. He was the creator and the first leader of the Bullet Club. He was the first Universal Champion, and this is the role that they have for him. He is so much better than that and needs to be placed in that. I expect with him the feud between him and AJ Styles to resume, and I would really love to see, from a storyline perspective, get AJ, Gallows, and Anderson to kind of pull him away from the Judgment Day and realize who he truly is and who he should be, and maybe even have him join the OC and just say, we are going to wreak havoc on SmackDown. With the rest of the Judgment Day, you can see that you have the top women's star in Rhea Ripley and a breakout star in Damian Priest. What I think would be actually really unique for the Judgment Day is if somehow Finn could break away, not be the leader, make Rhea Ripley the leader of the Judgment Day, because that is something that has never been done in any wrestling promotion that I know of, to have a female strong leader of a male-dominated group. And I think Rhea can pull that off. And with a strong second in Damian Priest, the sky could be the limit. Even with Dominic Mysterio, I think it would be fun to see him in the role of like a J&J security, getting in the way, helping the others win, being, a new person to the group. But I do think that having a flipping leadership there, moving Finn, would be a win-win for the Judgment Day. Guys, that's it for our review of WWE Backlash. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video, getting caught up on the past weeks of WWE action. Look for us every week. If you have any questions or comments, you can make those down below. See you next week.